3, 4.
We just live right now, man. It's going down, excited for the season. You know, we coming off a playoff win. I mean, you know, we had a couple wins.
Hello, and welcome to Diaries, a Milwaukee Bucks podcast presented by us, the Stafford Brew Hoop. And I can proudly say, authentically, this one is presented by the Stafford Brew Hoop. I thank all our previous guests we've had on in this interview series before, but let's be honest. I mean, Mitchell Maurer, spiritually, he's part of the staff. He gets a byline every once in a while, but he's not part of the staff currently. And the Lockdown Bucks crew, great interview with them. Very thankful they were able to come on, but it's like a kid that you just saw grow up, and now they're standing on their own 2 feet. If spiritually, I want to say Lockdown Bucks is a product of Brew Hoop because of Frank and Eric's contributions on the front end. But this edition of the season preview series, we're keeping it in-house. I'm joined by my first full-time Brew Hooper of the series. It's Morgan Ross. Morgan, how are you doing this evening?
Doing great as a full-time / part-time Brew Hooper.
Are you do you feel like there's something different in the air in your current geographical location versus previous ones as vis-a-vis excitement for the Bucks season, or is it completely unchanged from most Septembers that have preceded this one?
You know, I think that the proximity to Dame's arguably home city, you know, you feel it. You see the license plates, you see the occasional jersey. you really don't see that much, but I think, being in a you know, they're not Supersonics fans, right? So they pretty much there are a fair number of Bucks fans, and for having Giannis not be kind of the front of that, it's an interesting dynamic, I suppose.
That is interesting. By license plates, do you mean that the state of Oregon has Damian Lillard license plates or Portland Trailblazer license plates?
I believe neither. I have to get plates. I don't think they have like a Dame vanity plate, but I think that they
yeah, vanity plate, that's the term.
I think that it says like Lillard or Dame, or like kind of like on the stencil around it. I don't know if it also might be a county or a town. Still new here, but I'm assuming that it's probably Bucks related.
He has the great good luck to be he gets drafted by Portland. He plays at Lehigh University, and there's a county in the state named after him already. This guy he's walking on water, Damian Lillard. That's kind of a shame they don't have the vanity plate though. I think the Blazers in particular, that would make a great vanity plate. Black, red, and white, like, or silver, whatever they call it. I think that's a awesome color combo.
Yeah, maybe there was, and I just,
everybody burned in the streets after Dame requested it. So.
There's actually a Scoot Henderson vanity plate.
So we never bothered for Dame, but Scoot, we got you. Oh, I'm glad.
The little dialogue about turnovers on the site under Jack's current series, most turnovers per 100 possessions. Congratulations, Scoot Henderson.
He's killing the game. I think it'll be interesting. Not a bust by any stretch. I think down year, but probably not the way the Blazers fans thought they were going to begin the rebuild. So I hope he shows a little more life in the second year.
Yeah, with not to dig up dirt from Mitchell's dark past, but I believe he did drop in the chat that he thought there was a chance that he was going to be better than Wemby. So maybe that'll still pan out, but for now, that's looking rough.
If Mitchell wasn't part of the staff before, he isn't after that one. All right, we're going to jump right into the season prediction questions. Morgan, like all my other guests, is going to undergo interrogation on a set of standard questions that I will ask every guest on this series to help compare and contrast kind of where we're all at in terms of feelings around the Bucks leading into the 2024-2025 season. We got fill in the blank questions, we got ranking questions, we got prediction questions. So kind of a little bit of flavor for everybody here. And I'm going to start right away with this question for you, Morgan. Which new Buck are you most intrigued by heading into this coming season?
Feels like the test that I'm about to be administering this coming fall. It's got the fill in the blank, multiple choice, short answer. You got
essay questions.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. I got to go with AJ. And
there's only one new AJ.
Yes,
that's true.
There's only technically one. Yeah, for the third
you.
year or younger, it would be an open question. But first round pick. So not a surprise. But the Bucks are prehistorically old, and the fact that he appears to be able to move quickly, laterally, as well as whatever the front to back version of laterally is.
Yes, I get what you're trying to say. Yes, I understand.
Yeah, he's fast, and that's really the extent of my excitement. Obviously, he's displayed a little bit more than that in Summer League, last game notwithstanding, but I'm excited to see someone who has a bit more of a pulse for the 3 minutes that Doc will play him every game.
I was going to say, so you are so far in this series, you're the fourth person who has picked AJ Johnson. So we are 4 for 4, AJJ, double J, A double J, I think is what we settled on for Locked On Bucks folks.
There also has to be, also just, it's got to be a record to have 3 AJs on a 18-person roster. Like there's a lot of AJs out there, but
John Horst loves nepotism, and he loves the letters A and J. For some reason, that's just kind of his lanes, and we really appreciate that he's filling it out. I think with AJ Johnson, the interesting thing for him, like you said, he'll get next to 0 minutes in the actual NBA, I would presume. I mean, he might get some at the start of the season just because everybody will get a chance to really try out. But for him, it's like, okay, even if he plays, he's probably outside of garbage time minutes, not going to be the lead ball handler. So we're going to be able to see, can he shoot? Does he have the courage to shoot? Like, can he fit in with the off-ball stuff? And it's very interesting.
How quickly can he do that?
Yes, because like Andre Jackson Jr., he kind of, he's a glue guy almost immediately. And then time wears on, you're like, oh, okay, I start to see a lot of the weaknesses here. So it'll just be, do we get enough opportunity with AJ Johnson this season to see, okay, here's the actual like weaknesses. Here's where he still has to go. Or is he going to be so limited in the role that he plays that it's not even something we can take home about?
Yeah. Or will he mostly just be shredding it for the Wisconsin Hodags if they still exist?
If they still exist,
the cloud around that. But yeah.
He should kill it. He should kill it with the Herd, I would think. That's where he'll get a ton of minutes, but we'll see how much fortitude I have to watch Herd games just for AJ Johnson against
now that you have the deep dive into Philip Alston and all the other Summer League guys that might end up there, they might actually become your
We're talking about my guys, my guys, the Milwaukee Bucks Summer League team.
Kenneth Faried light.
Yeah.
We're going to find at least half a diamond in that rough.
The Kenneth Faried of Oshkosh is definitely not something anybody should be angling for. So
it's kind of Sam Hauser, right? He's an Oshkosh boy.
I have no idea. Does he play like Kenneth Faried? I think these are two questions we don't know the answers to right now. But
I was focused on the Oshkosh component.
And I was focused on the Kenneth Faried component. But that's all right. All right. Speaking of young guys, so AJ Johnson, most intriguing guy for you. Now let's talk about actually having an impact, because maybe it'll be AJ Johnson in your mind. But I want to know the young buck, i.e. with 3 years or less experience, who you think will have the greatest impact on this season. Your grouping primarily is going to be AJ Green, AJ Johnson, Andre Jackson Jr., Chris Livingston, Marjon Beauchamp, and Tyler Smith. You're welcome. We were talking a little bit of Stanley Umude before the podcast, but
It's true.
which of those guys kind of jumps out at you as you think, okay, he'll have an actual role to play this year?
Hard not to go with another AJ, with AJ Green, just because maybe most importantly, it's up to Doc, and it seems like he's the only one on that list that Doc really gives two farts about. You know, late season veteran focus notwithstanding. But I think that, you know, he's obviously got a pretty decent shot and seems to, against all odds, morphed into a non-negative defensive player, which I still don't know if I quite buy, but seems to be, you know, making it work. So, and that's really all he needs to do in the limited minutes he'll be getting, is hitting threes and not letting people blow by him like Dame. So, that's probably my pick there.
I think it's reasonable. I think somebody, I want to say Camille said Andre Jackson Jr., which I kind of get as well, because they're of the guys that Doc gives an F about. I do remember there being like 2 clips at the end of last season of Doc coaching, even in the playoffs, like coaching Andre Jackson Jr., i.e. telling him, what the F are you doing? Knock that off or whatever, I'm sure is what the conversation was. But he actually did get minutes in the playoffs. Now, we were shorthanded, but it's got to count for something, right?
Yeah.
But when I think about who you have to compete against to win minutes against the vets as well, like for AJ Green, it's primarily Pat Connaughton, and Pat might just either be done or may just have fewer minutes in general this season. So just even the path to minutes is a lot clearer for AJ Green than it is for anybody else out of that group, I think.
Yeah. And I think it's tricky just because with Summer League and Andre not doing as well, it seems like the vibe on him has soured a little bit, but his role in Summer League is so much different than what he would be asked to be doing with the main team. And he fills that role really well. I just think that, yeah, ultimately the other AJ probably will get a few more minutes, make a bit more of an impact.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I think AJ Green's like the reliable one, but everybody else that is in that group is more like a possible change of pace candidate, which makes them interesting over the course of an 82 game season. So, and if they take advantage of an opportunity, maybe they'll make something happen. So I think it's been mostly Andre Jackson Jr. and AJ Green on this, but I think people can make a reasonable case for a lot of the guys, except maybe Marjan, but you know, we can just leave that be. That's no big deal. Okay.
Hey, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen this year. That's all.
He literally has no choice. It has to happen now, or it's just not going to. It's literally just,
or else it's back to Yakima.
Yeah. Which would be totally fine if that's how it ended up working out. And we salute you, Marjan, for making that money. Okay. Yeah. To go from the younger side of the roster, let's go to the older side, even though Gary Trent Jr. is not that old. I think he's only 25. But of the 3 major free agent acquisitions, and you wisely wanted to clarify, am I including the 2-way guys? I'm not. All we're talking about here are Gary Trent Jr., DeLon Wright, and Taurean Prince. I want you to rank those guys in order of who you think will fill and excel in the role that they've been brought in to fill. Who will do best at that, and then who will do worst, quote unquote. And again, role can kind of depend on what you think they're actually here to do, like what you envision them doing.
The rankings stress me out a little bit, not gonna lie.
This one's the easy one compared to the next one, but in terms of
I partially ranked for the next one.
Okay.
I elected to just say they all fit their roles well for this one.
Okay. Yeah. I love everybody. I'm a huge fan of everybody. If you could buy each of these guys jerseys, you would. That's the kind of fan you are.
Yeah. I'm also hampered for this question because I like to say that I'm just a hyper partisan fan, but the reality is just that I have no idea what is going on at pretty much any other team in this league. And the fact that they have only just arrived, no idea. But essentially, from what I can glean, from the excellent coverage provided at Brew Hoop. Kind of in the, I don't know if you're familiar with the classic Reddit post trying to get Dwight Howard to.
Yes, I am. Yep.
Then the kind of in the Ish Smith is a point guard mindset, DeLon Wright is an adult who can, hopefully be George Hill minus a decade, give or take, and a full neck. And Tarian Prince is a wing. That's good.
Yep.
and then Gary is a fifth starter. So as far as I'm concerned, all the boxes are checked. Obviously there'll be some we'll see how exactly those boxes are checked as the season unfolds. But
this is the most wise answer I've gotten to this question so far, because realistically, so I know understandably people get excited about, hey, we beat out these other teams in this free agent rate, or this race for these vet min free agents, which, it's better than getting a guy off the buyout market, like having to go and be like, oh yeah, we just killed it with Pau Gasol. Like, it's better than that. So I'm not trying to down these guys, but
yeah. And Gary Trent Jr. was asking for the max contracts, basically. Like,
poor bastard ends up in Milwaukee on minimum money. That's a tough situation. Sorry, Gary. Also talk to your agent about that. But like, it's this balance of wanting to be excited about them. I was excited about Malik Beasley a year ago, and it turned out there was a reason why he was available on a minimum. And yes, he was able to boost his value. He had a great season. Please don't do that. I recommend those who are listening. That's a good moment right there at about the 16-minute mark to go watch on YouTube. So like, I thought, okay, he boosts his value. He goes to Detroit. He makes some more money. Good for him or whatever. But at the end of the day, these are just like veteran free agent minimum guys who ended up here because, for probably perfectly reasonable basketball reasons, I see the fit for a lot of them, but I'm not going to go out and be like, oh, these guys are going to be the difference. Like, it'd be nice if they're pretty good. I think Taurean Prince would be hard pressed to be any worse than Jay Crowder. It'd be hard for anybody to be any worse than Jay Crowder. So like, okay, that's an upgrade. Maybe Gary Trent Jr. plays defense a little bit better than Malik, but it'd be hard to match Malik's shooting numbers. Like, he was outstanding from three. So I think it's right to say they each are here to do a job. They seem to make sense for the job they're here to do. And we'll just see how it goes from there.
They are on our team.
Yeah. They are three guys who are Milwaukee Bucks. That's who they are.
Of all time. But they're empty calories. They're not at this point multi-year nourishment. So
yeah, and the only guy who really has any long-term upside is Gary Trent Jr., and the odds of him sticking around any longer than a season are almost non-existent. So that's all right. That's where we are in the competitive landscape, but temper the expectation, folks. All right, let's get spicy with it. I hate it when people say that on podcasts. I'm so sorry I said that. I've also said controversial about a million times. So I'm just going to ask you, skip right to it, to rank these three players in your mind in terms of their importance to the season. It's Damian Lillard, it's Chris Middleton, it's Brook Lopez. Rank those guys for me.
Chris and Brook essentially haven't changed in the last decade.
It's true.
And I, obviously, if I had a nickel for every tennis writer who has used the phrase "father time" to talk about Djokovic right now, I would be quite wealthy. But if father time comes calling for, obviously, we could be in for a big nosedive. But at this point, they're not question marks, they're periods. The partial question mark is Dame. So he's the most important to me, not just because he's arguably should be better, but just because he is the second star in this team. And, for a lot of professional and personal reasons last year, we didn't get to see that. either on an individual level or in terms of his pairing with Giannis. So he has given indications of he's working out with that one guy as per MMMR.
This
so
is
huge.
David Goggins. This is the third interview that David Goggins has gotten a shout out, which is not a good situation to be a part of.
If Dame's cardio is any indication of his pick and roll chemistry with Giannis this coming season.
if there's as is well known, if there's a 1-to-1 connection between those two things.
Yeah, I mean, there's two pedals, kind of going in tandem. Like there's a lot of thematic parallel, but so yeah, that the only ranking that I will let myself do in this round will be Dame is ahead of them, but I'm not ranking them.
Okay, quick Brook Lopez discussion, because I kind of talked about it a little bit with Mitchell, but any concern? You said Father Time, he's knocking on the door. You just got a nickel richer. Should we keep an eye out for Sandbag and Brook this year? He almost left for Houston 2 summers ago at this point, or whatever, last summer I should say. He was purportedly on the trade market, and then when nobody was really interested, we said, no, Brook, it's all good. We love you for life, buck for life. He was completely under siege all of last season, and he's sandbagging Brook concerns, not health or age or anything, just maybe doesn't care as much. Or any concerns there? Do you believe in Brook Lopez's fire? Whatever that means.
I believe in Brook Lopez's fire in the fireplace as like a it's on in the background, not like a bonfire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think his game translates well to age. I think he likes the situation he's in. I think he likes basketball. I think that I like to think that there's still enough for him to keep going. And I think he's in it's tricky because he is in a position where I do think that he has really evolved to fit this team particularly well. Maybe a little less so under Doc, but I feel like, relatively speaking, his value is maxed here.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't going to Houston. Houston didn't think he was going to Houston. I don't care if they're paying him $24 million a year or whatever. They had money to spend, so they wouldn't get slapped by Silver. So I'm a believer.
Okay.
Let
Good.
it be. Yeah.
Adam Paris is proud yet again. That's another recurring segment. Everybody gives Book the thumbs up, gets the Adam Paris thumbs up. Okay.
Good.
How about this? Let's go from the belief in Brook to any concerns that you have on the team. So I've been couching it as this: what you think the team's greatest current weakness is. So it could be micro, it could be something specific to a player, it could be macro, it could even be off the court. Like, when you're looking at the team, what's the one thing that gives you a little bit of pause thinking long term, or into the season? What's the worry for you?
Five through 8.
Fair enough.
It comes down to the playoffs, and I feel like the Bucks are in this kind of are in a transition period where the 5 through 8 of yesteryear, Bobby, Pat in particular, are a little washed, a little cooked. Although I'll be making a very strong case for Bobby later. So
very good.
Hold.
Yeah.
And then the up and coming 5 through 8, all 10 of our AJs and whoever else would be in that camp haven't quite matured enough, and essentially, and yeah, we'll also get this later, but either that gap needs to be filled from one direction, whether it's from the olds or the youngs. I don't particularly care for the short term, but right now, that I guess, is this a regular season question or a playoff
It could
question?
be. It can kind of be
It's
whatever, up to your interpretation.
yeah, it's not much of a biggie in the regular season, but in the playoffs,
I think that's reasonable. The more I think about it, I've yet to put people through the 8-man rotation exercise that we do on the podcast. But when you think about it, right, the youngest person in it, no matter what, is going to probably be Gary Trent Jr., barring something weird happening during the season. And then it's DeLon Wright, Bobby Portis, and pick your poison between Pat Connaughton and Torian Prince. Like, not only is the 5-3, it's like the age concerns, but then it's starting to really like be felt also at the top end of the bench group as well.
right?
2 years ago, it's like, oh, Bobby's 27, Bobby's 28. Like, he's still youth and upside, and he'll just turn 30 this year. So again, he's not like an old man or anything, but it's just that same constant ding about the age. And now it's like, okay, we continue to have that same problem. And now the young core vet guys are also starting to age out, in addition to like the true core, like top 4 guys, more or less.
Yeah. And having a young core, great, like not somewhat of a new development. So it's nice to have that in terms of legs for the regular season. It's just, there's kind of a cliff after the 4, and the cliff actually extends pretty far deep on the bench, which is useful. But when you're limiting it to 8 for the playoffs, it's having good guys 5 through 12. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating if any of the young guys can push through and make a case, a legit case for being part of the rotation. Like, or will Doc do the Doc thing and kind of stick with the vets? That's a curious question that I'm not sure we really have a clue on until we actually get to the games.
It's trickier to get a read on what he'll look like in a full season as opposed to the. I don't know if you heard, but there's a very difficult situation that he was thrown into.
Doc,
whatever
his comments
he can't
believe that we were doing this. He couldn't believe it. It's like, Doc, honestly, I think I could probably get Doc on the podcast. If it wouldn't even be that hard. I'd just send him an email to whatever.
Have Jackson reach out to him. Marquette connection, money.
I'm not allowed to speak to Doc. I have to just feed the questions to Jackson, and I can be on the podcast, but I can't speak. That'd be awesome. Shout out to you, Doc. You're great on the mic. You are entertaining to listen to, so I'll give you that. But Jesus Christ, some of the times it's like, all right, can we just chill out with the dropping bombs on recorded media, please? Doc's a good guy. All right, here we go. We watch roughly 82 games this season. Let's be honest, we don't watch every single Bucks game, but we watch quite a number of them. Maybe not a lot of other NBA basketball, but when you're tuning in, I've couched this it's the Tuesday night in February. It's a road game in Orlando, and you want to see the Bucks do what during this game and in the regular season to make it worth your while to tune in each night? What's something you would look forward to, you'd like to see the Bucks do this season?
So ready for this. I feel like Orlando might be upgrading from that.
I know.
I'm now realizing. Yeah. They're easy.
Okay, it's a Tuesday. Memphis, Washington, whatever you want. Yes,
sure. And I'm, by virtue of being Pacific Coast, I am looking forward to getting much closer to 82. And that's really a beautiful, beautiful thing this time zone. I want Bobby to cook.
Are you starting the 6 Man of the Year campaign? Is this it? You're the manager?
This is the year that he can win it. You ready for this?
Yeah, please drop it.
We have acquired, I believe, 1.5 quality defenders in DeLon Wright and Torian Prince. Yeah. I want DeLon Wright and one of the older AJs in the backcourt. I want Giannis next to Bobby, and I guess Torian Prince over. Yeah.
This is a crazy lineup you're putting together on the fly right now. Continue.
Not completely on the fly, given that it will be unveiled in whatever the lineup thing that we're about to run for the site.
Okay,
but
yes.
I don't even want Giannis to touch the ball on offense. So, like, taking back a step, I feel like Bobby has his warts. We all know that.
Yeah, I'd say
But
so.
but I feel like he was in that sweet spot of disliked enough to be put in 1,000 trade simulators over the season, but also liked enough that he actually had value to be doing that with, as opposed to Pat Connaughton, as opposed to Marjan, as opposed to the second round pick in 2050. Like he is still a valuable player.
Yep.
Just because he was our number one asset that we just tried to shovel off for the last several months does not change that. And how do we maximize Bobby's value? And especially in the regular season, we need it. We need him to get plenty of 15-foot jumpers on the offensive end, and we need him to stay the hell away from the ball on the defensive end. Okay. And the way that we do that,
I'm starting to see the vision. I'm starting to come around to the vision here. Yeah. Okay.
The way that we do that is we put him around people who cannot shoot, can't hit the side of the barn, but like maybe can enough that like they can't just put 5 folks on Bobby. And then on the defensive end, people that can hold their own and potentially hold their own above, like to a degree that they could also cover for Bobby. And by they, I mean Giannis. So I, as far as I'm like, he goes back to the other guys. He is a Milwaukee Buck. You can't argue.
You can't deny. We literally, if we looked it up on Wikipedia right now, it would literally say it in his biography. He is a Milwaukee Buck. We fact checked it.
We're stuck with him, so we might as well let him cook. And we let him cook also all of his flappy rebounding. It's gonna happen. Having it next to Brook, double center, double flapper rebounder, like next to Giannis, more of like a suction cup. Although Taurean Prince can't rebound, maybe we'll throw Chris in. But then
he
having Giannis
could rebound, but he doesn't feel like doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, so sure. I feel like that's a good pick to have out there if you want Bobby to be really soaking up the rebounds.
Yeah, I think that it'll cover up his defensive problems, and like our problem with Bobby on the offensive end is him calling his own number, and it's less of a problem if his number is the only number out there. So I rest my case.
Okay, so you want more Bobby Portis? That might be the well, it's definitely easily the most off the wall suggestion so far of these answers I've gotten. But
it's a proportion thing. In absolute terms, I want less Bobby Portis on the court. When he is on the court, I want Bobby.
Yep, I understand.
Like, full stop. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want, like, if he's on the court and disrupting the offensive flow, not great. If the flow is Bobby, we can't,
So this fills in with my theory on Bobby, which is that Adrian Griffin was a not great coach for a lot of different guys, but he might have been the worst possible coach for Bobby, because Adrian Bobby strikes me as the kind who would not suffer fools. And if he felt like Adrian Griffin was like, okay, what's going on here, that would not sit well with him. So it's always been like when Budenholzer was coach, okay, Bobby finds this renaissance. He's like plays really within his lane, within himself. It's not like his defense is great, but we have a great enough defense around him to be able to cover for that. And he does great things on the offensive end. We're going to see, like with your lineup, or, if I even on this last Monday morning media roundup, I was like, oh, if you have Taurean Prince and Giannis out there, they kind of both can be like, Taurean will do the heavy lifting on whoever the wing is. Then you have Giannis as the free safety guy again. Okay, we can kind of replicate that whole thing over again. So I see the idea of why Bobby should be able to fit in, and it's much as I dog on him all the time on the podcast, but that's mostly because he demands apologies from everybody for reasons that he should not be asking apologies for. You're right that he's like, when he's on, it's entertaining to watch him. He can be a great addition offensively. It's just, yes, when it's out of the flow, it's like, okay, Dame and Chris and Giannis are watching as Bobby's hoisting shot after shot. You're like, I don't know if this is how this is really supposed to go, but okay, I could see the vision. I like the 6 Man of the Year campaign. I know Bobby would as well. This is probably his last shot to really go for it, honestly, to really give her. So
the storyline we aren't talking about enough. Bobby's last shot for the sixth man of the year.
We call it the last dance, the Bobby Portis story. Bobby Portis sixth man of the year campaign story. No. This isn't the last year of his professional career. This is just probably the last time he'll have a shot at making sixth man of the year. I don't know.
Whether he's flirting with double doubles on the nightly. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, if he just rebounds with both hands, I'm telling him he will win sixth man of the year. This one simple trick. Doctors hate him because he knows what to do to be able to get the rebounds, which is use two hands rather than one. All right, this is another fill in the blank question. In order for the Bucks to win a title, they must, and the asterisk is here. Don't say win 16 games. It's the only option off the board for you. Otherwise, you can say whatever you like.
This is like plot twist: 16 games in the regular season.
Yeah, exactly. 16 games between summer league and preseason. Yeah. In which case, we're already doomed. But
kind of just a portmanteau of two previous answers would be I like really the middle depth, and having that either be filled from above or below, and then the Giannis Dame pairing. Hot take, but just having that sizzle a little bit more. I think that's really icing on the cake. I think that having less of a drop off for 5 through 8 is most crucial. But if they can get their stuff down, that would certainly, as it has often with Giannis in the past, would cover up a lot of our problems.
I was going to ask, are we at the point here where we're underrating, just like the key should be keep Giannis healthy? Everybody else can drop like flies, but keep Giannis healthy in particular. And because the way I look at it is we like I'm on the team, like I'm suiting up. I just make that mistake. The team goes out 2 years in a row in the first round and, not great fashion. And we take the lumps on the chin because that's just like, that's how the cookie crumbles. Hey, you guys are all still professionals. We still expect you to make something work here. But realistically speaking, you could, like LeBron at his peak, you could stick a bunch of randos around Giannis and he'll probably drag you pretty far away. So are we underrating like Giannis's importance somehow?
It's almost like that just happened this summer.
Well, we saw it on the world stage. Literally everybody watched it. Shout out to the Greeks. Sorry if that upsets you, but you guys know what happened. Come on. Are we underrating Giannis? Is it possible for us at this point to be underrating the importance of Giannis?
I don't know if it's underrating so much as it's died down in recent years, but the talk about how he needs to develop a more sustainable game as he ages, because obviously incredible healing ability. Suki and the team are horse meat up
horse meat connoisseurs du jour is what we call them. Yes.
But and there's going to be a degree of physicality to his game regardless. But I think the more that he can continue to work on his game to be able to reduce contact, and the more that the rest of the team can literally do anything to get us through the regular season with him intact. So I put that more on the team than on Giannis, but Giannis can play his role in that.
I think that's something too. You could even slot it into something you would like to see, and it's easy for us to say, hey, Giannis, be like a completely different player than what you've been your entire career. Like, still got to win the games. Main way you're going to win the games is if Giannis plays like Giannis. But part of what's exciting about Giannis 2.0 to me is what is going to be that shift? Because I continue to believe there will be a shift over time. He is stubborn in the way that he plays, but I think he will also listen to his body and understand, okay, this is how I'm going to sustain. And seeing year over year, what's the small changes that he makes? What's his difference in approach? He had to play with Drew and had to play with Eric Bledsoe. Okay, now he's with Dame. That's what's exciting about it, is I still think there's so much room for change and growth. And no, you don't want him to completely change the kind of player he is, because that would be asinine. But it is very interesting to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, no, he's kind of aged out of these sorts of questions, but
Yes.
important to still keep them on our minds.
Yeah. Okay. Keeping the future on our minds, I'm going to give you the last and most unfair question here. I'm going to ask you to predict the team's finish in the East. I don't care about the record, just whatever finish, 1 through 8, hopefully, and how far you think they go in the playoffs.
Obviously, change is the only constant. That being said, I don't see the Bucks passing the Celtics or the Knicks, and I don't see anyone below us passing us, particularly Philly.
Thank you. You
I
said it,
think
but we
the
were all
Paul
thinking.
George-
We were all thinking it.
I think the Paul George experiment is going to go great for us.
Yeah, for everybody who doesn't wear a 76ers jersey. Or isn't
I
a
mean, the
76ers
NBA the last decade is essentially like the main question you need to ask is, where is Paul George?
That's where that's where the hard bridge is between the teams that really matter and like wherever everybody else is at. It's true. Where in the world is Paul George? That's a good point.
And then conference semifinals, losing to the power of friendship. I don't know if I've read too many athletic articles about how happy all those Villanova guys are together, but it seems like, yeah, good players, good chemistry. They have obviously a coach with some quirks, but I think that they work with that group of players, and yeah, hope it's a good series. Hope we have Giannis.
I hope we get to the second round. That would be an excellent upgrade
That's
over what
true.
we've had the past couple of seasons. Yeah,
that's true.
Okay. Semifinals. That's
I feel like I feel okay about it.
Yeah.
I really do. I think it represents progress. I think just getting past the first round, knock on wood. I think that in a year or two, with the AJs filling the 5 through 8 with more competence, and then you start to get questions about the top 4 with age. But I think that the team will have changed a fair bit with Giannis still being at the core of it. So I think that given where we're at in Giannis's timeline, I'm fine with that finish.
Okay. Both reasonable and well argued. So thank you, Morgan. I appreciate you could say that for all your answers except for the Bobby Portis one. I appreciate your time going through all these, and we're going to switch it up now over to miscellaneous. So longtime podcast listeners will know that you have a recurring segment whenever you come on the podcast. It's aptly titled, "Where in the World is Morgan Ross?" I'm just going to let you take it away. Where in the world is Morgan Ross?
He is in Oregon, but he was in Tasmania. So was had a conference down under in Gold Coast. Shout out to Brew Hoop contributor Kyle Carr for some excellent recommendations while I was there.
Salute,
name
Kyle.
drop ever.
Yeah.
But then, after the conference, met up with a buddy of mine who was meeting up with a buddy of his in Australia, and then there were other buddies involved, but went down to Tasmania. If you haven't heard of it, Tasmania, lovely island south of Australia, size of West Virginia, contains 24 national parks.
Jeez.
And they are absolutely gorgeous. We spent a day at Tasman National Park and Freycinet National Park. They were both lovely, strongly recommended. I want to highlight the non-national parks, though. In Hobart, which is the capital of Tasmania, they have a variety of things. One of them is the Bonarong Wildlife Sanctuary, where they rehabilitate all of Tasmania's little critters. And I am now stuffed to the gills with marsupial facts, which I will briefly unspool. Tasmanian devils, despite what Looney Tunes would have you believe, are actually pathetic absolutely worthless. They can only see about a meter in front of their faces. They are very slow. They have scary jaw, teeth, what have you, but that's really only when they're scared. They don't use that aggressively. So they just bumble around looking for animals that are already dead and then scavenge them. And then we wonder why they're getting endangered. But you also have wombats, which are more like what Looney Tunes depicted Tasmanian devils to be. Wombat butts are like Kevlar. They withstand dingoes biting at them. They just withstand pretty much everything. And they've been known to lure dingoes and other prey into their burrows and then smash their butts on them from above and
I've seen
kill
this.
them.
I've seen this. I've seen
Okay.
the video facts of this. Yes. It's true.
Video facts, the best
Yeah.
facts.
The
Yes,
best kind
proof.
of facts.
So, and then most importantly, as well, there will be a clip at some point, but discovered the love of my life, which is the echidna. They are like fuzzy porcupines. They are that great mix of weird and cute. Long noses, like the front half and the back half kind of seem like they're on their own wavelengths. The way that they amble through the world is just everything to me. So you can check that out. And
I will be what I'll be doing is I'll be looping that clip that Morgan sent me
good.
over while he's narrating what's happening.
And I basically watched a version of that clip while I was there for an hour, like absolutely transfixed. So definitely, if you're in Hobart, check out the Bonarong Wildlife Sanctuary. You should also check out Mona, which is the Museum of Old and New Art. Big old art complex. In the news for a couple things recently. One, if you've heard of the Wu-Tang Clan, they had an album that they created a single copy of. It was their big FU to the streaming industry. And they only sold it to one person, only one copy. That person was Martin Scarelli, but things happened to him and he was forced to sell, and it ended up at this museum. And the week before I was there, unfortunately not while I was there, they did private listening sessions to be some of the only people in the world to listen to this album. And I didn't see the album, but I did see the recording studio where that took place. This museum was also in the news recently because they had an exhibit called Ladies Lounge, which was a riff on men's lounges that were popular in like European art salon style. And the catch of this, as the title suggests, is that men were not allowed to enter. And one particular man took umbrage with that and sued. And the museum in court said, "We agree that this is gender discrimination. That's the point." And the judge didn't like that, so they had to change it up. And the museum's response was to take the whole exhibit and put it into a women's restroom.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
And this exhibit, throughout, the idea was that there was some pretty high profile art, including several Picassos, now in a women's restroom. But because of all the publicity, the International Picasso Society started asking some questions. We thought that we knew where the Picassos were. We didn't know they were in Tasmania. And they issued a statement saying, like, part of the whole bit is that these are not real Picassos. These are just like status symbols that we wouldn't let people see. And then they weren't even real. People were still upset that they couldn't get to see them. So Mona, the last Tasmania Where in the World update is the low light of the trip, unfortunately. But highlight in retrospect, Tasmania is known as the roadkill capital of the world. You got, county highways, bush pretty much right along the side of it. We were there in winter, so it was very dark. A lot of animals, not many people. And I was not feeling particularly well, so I'm sitting in the front seat holding on for dear life. And unfortunately, Mr. Kangaroo jumped across the road. And as a side note, kangaroos and wallabies are everywhere. They're essentially squirrels.
They're the deer of Australia and Tasmania.
They're not the hodag. They're the deer of yes. But we did unfortunately clip the kangaroo. I think it still jumped away, but that I guess was the final straw for my insides to become outsides. So we then pulled over and I puked on the side of the road, thanks to hitting a kangaroo. So I can't think of a more
Did you feel
Tasmanian.
better, not emotionally, but physically after that? Was that at least?
I think, you know,
Did you
obviously
bounce
it's
back
canceled,
or yeah?
canceled out with, you know,
I understand.
felt worse with the kangaroo, felt better with the, you know,
Yeah.
but all told, if you're in the neighborhood, which is not often, I strongly recommend a good visit to Tasmania.
Is it a couple of follow-up questions? I've never been to Australia. I'll be perfectly honest. I really don't have a lot of interest in Australia, not because like, oh, big scary animals, crazy spiders, everything. That doesn't faze me so much. It's just seems like a really long trip. And I I don't really understand Australians when they're speaking, so that would really grate on me. That would just be like kind of exhausting. So to get to Tasmania, flights or boats? Is it a flight to get there? How did you get there, I guess?
You can fly into Hobart,
Okay.
and that puts you south end of the island. And it's a pretty. We had a car. It's probably 3 hours to get across the island. It's not
Okay.
too bad. But the other option, which we took, is I can't even remember what it's called, but there is a boat, a nice overnight boat. If you're looking to rock back and forth while you sleep. And that made sense having the car because we were able to take the car over, and I would
So you
recommend it
ferry
for
it over.
that.
Yeah.
You know, there was also a bit of a loophole where I think they took sorry on they felt sorry for vegetarians on board, so I got a very heavily discounted dinner, which was appreciated. But pretty good food. They serve dinner and breakfast, and they have a little movie theater. They have like an arcade. That it's really
That's
it's
cool.
just
Okay.
who doesn't love a cruise ship where you're
I was
mostly
gonna say.
sleeping the entire way?
Mhm.
So that, but that you know, you have to go kind of an hour south of Melbourne to be able to get to that. It puts you out on the northern end of the island, which has some good vineyards, but is maybe not the epicenter of the stuff that we wanted to do per se.
Okay.
But in general, yeah, I mean, you got Tasmania, Australia as a whole, a lot of natural beauty. Melbourne was a really great city. Gold Coast was essentially Miami, so I don't know if I strongly recommend it, but I had a nice time. And then New Zealand is also, you know, hop, skip, and a jump once you're down there. So if you're able to get down there and make the length of the journey worth it, stay there for a little bit.
Okay, second follow-up. Is Tasmania, from what you learned, I mean, you said you went in winter, so not a lot of people traveling just in general, popular with Australians? Or is it typically
No.
okay, it isn't. Do they look down upon it in some sort of dark, twisted way, which we may or may not want to get into on this podcast? I don't know.
It's kind of not just in size, but also in culture, the West Virginia of Australia.
Yeah.
And it's considered so far away. Like,
that's a big country, so everything's kind of far away from each other,
yeah,
from what I
this is
gather.
true. But my buddy's friend who's from Melbourne had never been there. And
Okay.
that would have been, it's an hour
Not that far
drive and
away.
then an overnight boat, or
Yeah.
a pretty quick flight. And not only, you know, we went during winter, our summer, their winter, and all of his buddies thought that he was mad, like going there when it was only like in the 40s and 50s, which is perfect hiking weather / perfect Wisconsin weather. But yeah, the boat was not filled. So I think it's kind of viewed as a, you know, oh, let's go to Montana for a weekend.
Okay. So
like we acknowledge that it's going to be relative, like pretty desolate, but it's going to be beautiful. And honestly, there was more, you know, it wasn't bustling, but Hobart is a city. And
people live there. Stuff's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a couple 100,000 people there. There's like a good number of ethnic restaurants, and then just like at all of the little kind of gas stations along the way, there's hot food, there's adequate. It's not completely the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's not the boonies
So
like to a dangerous degree. We're like, okay, that
no,
was last
no.
gas station until we like reached the ocean or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And then my final question, sorry, did you say you had been to Australia before or you had not?
I had jet lagged in Sydney for
Okay. So
a little
technically
bit,
yes, but
but
not
not.
really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rate
What were you
rank.
thinking?
Well, so I'm just asking because my wife and I are always like, what's like our top 5 next destinations, like countries we
Okay.
would go visit? And I'm just curious, like, you know, we have the Where in the World is Morgan Ross segment titled that way for a reason. Where would you rate it as a country that you visited, knowing that it was specifically a lot of time spent in Tasmania? How would you rate Australia compared to other places you have visited? Do you really enjoy it? Would love to go back? Any other places you'd like to go to first? Kind of where's it on the pecking order?
For me, it's really contingent on nature, and that
Mm-hmm.
puts it pretty high on the list.
Fair
I
enough.
think the density of a variety of different beauty was just crazy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, somewhat similar to the southwestern US, but like far more diversity in terms
Yeah.
of what you're experiencing. And so, um, and then, yeah, an extra shout out to all those animals. Just the perks of evolution. Everything down there is either bigger or weirder. Like, like there's just so many furry friends that I didn't realize were with us on this planet. Like
Yeah.
a patamelon, who knew? Like essentially an off-brand wallaby. Like you've got quolls, you've got like so many things that just seem cooked up in a lab. And I don't know. I think at least some part of travel is experiencing novelty, and just by virtue of, like you said, it's very far away. Is an island like that? It's a very unique place to go.
Interesting. I'm not sure if it's going to bump it right into the top 5, but I like to hear positive words in
What's
favor of Australia.
what's on the top 5?
Oh God.
Apropos.
I've got to run out there and ask her. I think
Okay.
for us right now, we would love to go to Spain. One last European trip. I've been to Europe a bunch, so I would like to start expanding past that. But Spain's in there. Japan is in there. We think Vietnam is in there. And gosh, I'm trying to remember which. I think Argentina and potentially parts of Brazil were our 5 right now.
Okay.
So I've been to Europe a ton. Our last trip there was the first time she'd ever been. So I think she would like to go one more time before we start to expand the horizons and start going beyond there. So, and I guess if I'm flying all the way to Japan or Vietnam anyhow, I mean, it's a long flight. So if I survive that,
Yeah.
just go straight down from there. So
yeah. Have you been to Slovenia in your European?
I haven't, no.
Slovenia and New Zealand for me are probably
really
top 2. Where
again,
in the world have
kind
I
of like
been?
nature dependent. I would not have expected that for Slovenia per se.
Yeah, exactly. But essentially felt like New Zealand with fewer people. Absolutely gorgeous, flying into Ljubljana, the capital, and then it's only 2 hours to Triglav National Park, which is absolutely stunning. And on the way, you can stop in Bled, which is this town with a lake that has an island that has a church, and there's a cliff with like a castle on it. It's this, I don't know, I guess classically Europe in some ways, but it absolutely blew me away.
Well, and it's one of those countries that's at the crossroads of so many different, historically speaking, at the crossroads of so much, given its geographical location, and then, like you said, the actual geography of the place between straddling part of the Adriatic and then beyond. And I have seen pictures of Slovenia that are like random, just people come into the orbit, not my personal orbit, but like I'll learn about a Slovenia and you look it up, you'd be like, wow, it's an amazing looking town that you're just from in Slovenia. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, no, all that whole region, just like going to the main history museum in each kind of capital city, and you're like a completely different 1,000+ year history. It's wild. And honestly, like, yeah, I mentioned like the things along that 2-hour drive from the capital to the national park, but that drive itself, it was like €7. Like that drive itself, I would pay like just absolutely wild.
Don't ruin it for the rest of us. Hold on. Don't name a price in case those
I know.
the Ministry of Tourism is listening in and is a huge Bucks fan for some reason.
Yeah,
okay.
I think we've got a good foothold over there.
Good to know. Shout out Slovenia, shout out to Australia, shout out to New Zealand, and shout out to Morgan Ross for making the time to come and join me on this. Morgan, I really don't know if you're on any social media, so you can plug if you want people to follow you. You can say pass if you really have no interest or have no places for people to follow, and that's okay if it's exclusively at brewhoop.com.
I was gonna say, you just keep supporting our hard work at Brewhoop.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Morgan. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody for listening, watching, like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Share it with your friends. You know your friends are looking for more podcasts to listen to. God knows we're all sick in the head for wanting to talk about the Bucks this much. This is a good place to continue that discussion. We appreciate your listenership, and we will talk to you again very soon.